I'm Rick Harsh, the creator, the creative, the influencer behind Corona Samizdat Books. My press, the press I created. But although it's very well liked, I think it's highly misunderstood. And I'm here to tell you today what Corona Samizdat Books really represents. Now we sell about 60 books to 40 different countries. But that doesn't change the fact that Corona Samizdat is a high intensity, intensive ruse that was meant to justify self-publishing without self-publishing in the most obvious way, without going on Amazon or whatever. By having my own press, I've been allowed to publish. I'm just going to ask my cameraman we're going to see what is. I've got some of our books here. The rest are in the storeroom. So I have about half of this Corona Samizdat menu here. But I want you to see if you notice one thing that's similar to all these books that I pull out here. Who's the author of this book? Who is the author of this book?
Rick Harsh.
Okay. And who wrote this book?
A fellow named Rick Harsh.
Okay. And we have another big one here.
I think that's Richard Harsh.
No, it's Rick Harsh.
Okay.
And who's that on the cover? Do you know him?
I think that's your son.
That's my son.
Arjun.
There are pictures in here. Here's a young lad throwing a baseball. Who do you think that is?
That's your son? No, that's you.
That's my son.
That's your son.
Yeah. I don't need that. I don't need anything with that. Okay. Who wrote this book?
Professor Harsh.
Yeah, Professor Harsh, because it's Who wrote these three books?
Ricky Harsh.
Rick Harsh, right? The Balkan Flip. Who wrote this? Well, obviously someone without an ego, because his name isn't on the front. Who wrote this? Same thing. It's a flip book. It's the Balkan Flip. Who wrote it?
Sensei Harsh.
Yeah. Okay. So, who wrote this book? This is Cobra Skin. Maybe you don't know because you can't. Okay.
Rick Harsh.
Yeah, that's right.
What a surprise.
Who wrote this?
Oh, this is harder to answer. Among others, Rick Harsh.
Yeah, but can you, from where you stand, who wrote this book?
Richard Harsh.
No, that's not what it says. What does it say?
Rick Harsh.
Okay, and who? Give me some of the other names. Can you see any? No? Yeah, there are other people. It's my brilliant anthological novel. Completely unique. Completely unique. We have a lot of other novels. This is a great novel by Zach Tanner. Now, let me explain something to you. You develop friends and colleagues when you create a press. And this is by Zach Tanner, who is a great friend of the press and also who works with the press. I wouldn't say works for the press, although we pay him a pretty substantial wage, unless you go by the hours. We pay him to do the covers and the typography. Okay? And he's also a writer of some stature, but I mean, how much stature? Hell if I know. Doesn't matter to me. As long as people like him and they buy his books, I'll fucking put him out. I've read everything he's written that I know of, and I have no idea if he's any good or not. And here's someone who's been dead for about 100 years, Roberto Arlt. And I was able to, through by bullying another publisher, I was able to get control and claim to publish it by myself. As the first complete Roberto Arlt novel. Now here's one, this is really interesting. What we've been able to do with these books, look at that, it's got a target on it. And you know why it's got a target on it? Well, because we came up with, Zachary Tanner, who wrote one of the books I just showed you, came up with the idea with Robert Stickley for this design. I think it was based on a Sylvia Plath novel. And that, the irony of that comes through when you find out that we are at, and I'm announcing this now, we are at the very beginning of what might be a very long-term, serious problem. I received, in an anonymous email, I received an accusation that Robert Stickley actually stole a book. In essence, maybe the whole thing, I'm not sure. It was very, Trump-like in its obscure logic, and it was repetitive and so on. But he accuses Robert Stickley of ripping off a writer of some repute. I'm not sure how much. I can't refute what I can't repute. But so the thing is, he has been accused, Robert Stickley has been accused of not just using some of, but stealing an entire novel from a writer of some repute that I can't refute, named George Salas. Now, did that happen? What do I care? I don't care. I'm on Stickley's side. He's my writer. If he stole all this from a writer named George Salas, I'd say, well, George, I guess you should have kept it closed when people were looking, or not. I don't know what he did. I don't know if there's truth in this. How did Stickley do it? And if Stickley did it, bravo Stickley, good job. I mean, imagine if, let's see if I've got something here that's not ours, but is very well known. Here we are. This is someone you all know. James Joyce, Ulysses. Imagine if Joyce ripped off someone else, like say an adolescent Beckett, or pre-adolescent Flann O'Brien, or some other Irish schmuck. If he did that, is he any less great a writer? If he stole this whole fucking thing from someone else? Let's say Joyce killed someone because he found this fantastic book and said, if I kill him, I can have the book. Would that not make him another great writer? I mean, he put out one of the great books of all time. Melville we don't know, because he failed in his lifetime to, it makes you think probably if either one of them, if it was Joyce or Melville who stole a book and published it, probably it was Joyce, because Melville's got him nowhere in his life. Maybe they both stole the books, and Joyce went to his grave laughing at Melville for failing so badly to steal a book that would sell. I mean, this Ulysses doesn't just sell. It's sold as the greatest book of the 20th century. And that's in competition with people like Roberto Arlt, who did write this book. I know he wrote this book. How do I know? Because the personality is on every page, on every line. Roberto Arlt is on there. So here is a legitimate 20th century classic and one of the best books ever written. And here is a 20th century classic that may or may not have been stolen. May or may not have been stolen. And it's a classic of the 20th century. Now you could ask me, well, Rick, if you found out that Joyce ripped off Ulysses, had killed someone and ripped off Ulysses, would you publish it? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Why not? Literature is great if it's great. If it's great literature, it's great literature. We publish it. We publish all kinds of literature. One of the things I like to do is publish books that I haven't read. João Reis. I read a couple of lines and I said, it might be good. Turns out it was great. I found that out after I published it and read it. David Vardaman I knew for a long time. He's a bad example. I just have his books here and I grabbed them. Here's another one. Tim Conley. Somebody told me, Tim Conley, Canadian guy, he writes a good short story and he has a good short story book out, but he's got another one he wants published. This is called Someday We Will Look Back on This and Laugh. Someday we will look back on all of this and laugh. This turned out to be a great book, but I didn't know until I read it, because I didn't give a shit. What do I care how good these are? I mean, let me see if I can find a bad writer. I can't. But here's David Miller, one of my professor, and we've got his book published. Talk about sleight of hand. It also, and further in sleight of hand terms, we've got drawings by Jeff Walton, who did the drawings for Philip Friedenberg's original or not Cult of the Cactus Boots. What is the rest of that title? Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic. Now, how much time are we into this?
14 minutes.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to keep this a little bit under 15 minutes. Are we under 15 minutes still?
Yeah.
How many seconds do I have?
80 seconds.
Okay, this is how a writer does push-ups. He says, hey, take it easy, it's going to be okay. I know we all think the world is against us, but a lot of times a book can be used to enhance your own reputation. So I have a well-known podcaster and reader named Matt Bucher who wrote his own book, and I think he published his own book. It's called The Balan Deck. And the interesting thing about this book is that what it teaches you is that as long as you have a mind and originality, you can write a book. Even if it's just about yourself and your thoughts and things, it doesn't matter. But what I get out of this, besides a good read one day, it's a short book. I get free publicity, and by association, I use Matt Bucher to enhance my own reputation, which really hardly needs enhancement with me at the wheel. Look at me, and this is Rick Harsh. I didn't publish this. They published it in France and went bankrupt. Well, Corona Samizdat is not going bankrupt. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I have some wine. It's 143 degrees outside. We're all going to be dead much sooner than anybody predicted. Zdravia.